Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello. I say as I indulge in a little bit of post-Halloween candy. Yeah. And
Yeah,
Daniel,
that's
the
yes.
people have to know: Red Vine or Twizzlers?
Twizzlers.
So you've chosen the path of evil. I see. I say as I eat Twizzlers, but that's because that's what's available.
Yeah,
I
I have no opinion either way. I just
mean, Twizzlers is more fun to say, but I'm
yeah.
I'm, I'm just thinking of that episode of Parks and Recreation, um, where that was like a serious thing at the wedding. We are a Red Vine family.
Oh yeah. Well, and Ninja seems to agree. He likes the Twizzlers. Good to see you, as always.
Man, so many people who have no taste.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh
I mean,
yes,
I'll eat them because they're sugar,
yeah.
but
Well, yeah.
welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, DB Fastbinder.
And me, Daniel Parker.
That's right.
Uh,
I usurped your normal role in the show.
that's all right.
It's because this is opposite week. So as you can see from the different background, I'm house sitting again, which means that Daniel is going to be our presenter.
Yes, and hopefully I don't mess it up. But if you're returning, well, welcome back. If you're new, what we have been doing for a little while is we start off with some box office talk. Then we get into our topics and reviews, and we got one of our reviews, of course, is a bit of a well, it's a well known subject that we're that's been talked about for the last week.
Will we make the review lame and gay? We'll just have to see. There
Yes,
won't be a trick. There won't be a chick in it, but
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, well, no, there's a chick right behind me.
oh, okay, there we go. But she's neither lame. I guess she could be bi. I suppose.
No, she's straight.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, but she is a chick, and yeah, yeah, she's a chick, but not neither lame nor gay.
Yes.
But yes, but to get to our first topic, the box office.
So a few weeks back, I was talking about how I was thinking that at this point, The Nun might be the top-grossing horror movie of the season. The existence of Five Nights at Freddy's is something my brain has refused to acknowledge.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this to do as well as I thought. Or although I guess if you look at the trend, it is below the trend, but
Yeah,
it's still doing well.
it's got the big weekend pop. I've heard from other podcasts that this thing is already, it was basically broke even before they even put it in theaters because of the fee they got to put it on Peacock.
Right? Yeah.
So at this point, this is a massive moneymaker, and I think this is even Blumhouse.
Is it Blumhouse? Let's see.
That should be on the left.
Yeah. Summary. It is. Oh yeah, product. Yeah, Blumhouse. Yeah.
Man, they just own horror at this point.
Yeah, they do. Well, yeah, especially low budget horror.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because they also had the Nun, and yeah, they seem to have the ones that are at least doing decently.
Yeah. Well, except for The Exorcist, but it's-
What are Peacock? Chengus is here as well. Hey, Chengus.
oh, hey, Jenkins.
What are Peacock's numbers now after Five Nights at Freddy's? I want to say the last I looked at it, it was like 20 million. They're definitely kind of like the sick man of streaming services, but
Yeah, but they're not overdoing it like they were at say Disney or even Paramount.
right. Let's see here. Daniel, I'm gonna answer his question as of the last quarterly report. Yeah, I mean, so Five Nights at Freddy's. It sounds like it's getting some decent reviews. Or I should say, it's getting awful reviews. But people who actually matter, fans and people who don't hold the politics of the creator of the games against it, are being
Yeah.
reasonable.
Yes. And from other reviews I've heard, it's a pretty good movie. So yeah.
Yeah, I've heard some of the extreme fanboys and fangirls not being entirely happy with the adaptation, but it's that
Yeah.
you're not hearing anybody say, I don't know, Jake Fazbear or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'll be honest too. I never played the games, so I don't really know much about it. I've heard it's like a haunted Chuck E. Cheese, basically.
Yep, I've played some of the first game. I don't think I ever got past Wednesday or Thursday.
Uh,
Um, because the first game is basically it's a bunch of twitch motions. You only have so much, like you have a limited amount of time that you're trying to survive as these haunted things go around the abandoned Chuck E. Cheese, and you have to close the door at the right time, but you can't leave the doors closed because it drains your battery. So it's all about resource management
oh, I
and
hate games
jump
like
skills.
I hate games like that. That's why I could never play like Resident Evil because of that. And Chinga says it's all right. Yeah.
You know what? All right is okay.
Yeah. Um,
Let's see here. So I'm looking at, of course, like most streaming services, Peacock's is still, a net money loser. So your Peacock paid subscribers increased to nearly 80% compared to the prior year to 28 million, including net additions of 4 million in the quarter. So it's like
mm,
very small numbers, but they're moving in the right direction, and that's a pretty, 80% growth in a year is nothing to sneeze at.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. And Chenga says, yeah, it was a haunted Chuck E. Cheese. Then they added lore, and now I don't know what those games are
Yeah, I think the only person who knows is Matt Pat, and he just knows by throwing crap at the wall. Oh, also, he's in the movie, and he says the line, "I have a theory." So,
all right.
also for reference, quarterly revenue for Peacock. Let's see, was that? Oh yeah, it was 830 million in a quarter off of those 28 million people, and but for comparison, Oppenheimer grossed 900 million. So it's still less money than a really big blockbuster would bring in, but I suppose it's also you've got the advantage of it being recurring, guaranteed revenue as long as people don't cancel.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, now go through the. I guess we can go through the rest of the list here. So Taylor Swift dropped down to two, which is fine
Yep.
with me. uh,
Yeah.
and then Killers of the Flower Moon is just oh
Yeah. Yeah. This thing cost as much of as a Marvel movie to make, so they aren't seeing that money back.
no, they are not. Yeah,
Uh,
as we can
uh,
see here. Yeah.
Like it'll have a long tail because it's a Scorsese movie.
Hmm.
And there's way the fact that it's a Scorsese movie, you'll have other Scorsese movies helping to buoy it up with, get the entire Martin Scorsese collection on Amazon Prime for $50 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be a slow road to getting that money back. Hope the Oscar's worth it. Hope you get the Oscar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Marty does need some more Oscars.
Well, I'm just glad I don't own any Paramount stock right about now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we got a new movie here from Angel Studios. This is the same ones
It's
that
another
put out.
faith-based movie.
Yeah, they did Sound of Freedom. Um, let's
I doubt
see.
this is going to get quite the same response. Although at
Uh,
the end, that'd be hilarious if you just had the guy show up at the end of every movie. Hey, we're fighting right now to conquer death.
yeah.
Here's where you can donate.
Thank you, Mr. Caviezel. Yeah. So it's feature film that explores the afterlife based on real. Oh, okay, real near death experiences made by
Yeah.
scientists. Okay, yeah.
The one issue with the way people talk about near-death experiences, so everyone talks about the light.
Mhm.
that really only started becoming a thing once you had hospitals with bright electrical lights in the ceiling. So
Oh.
at least that's the theory I've heard.
Mm.
Like,
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. But yeah. So Exorcist dropped down to 5. Uh,
With which am I reading that right? Is a $3 million weekend in its fourth week?
yeah, 3.2.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, just under 60 million domestic.
Disney got a little more free money by re-releasing The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Mm,
Paw Patrol continues to make a lot of money compared to its budget.
yes. Another new movie, Freelance. Don't know anything about that. Oh, John Cena. Nah.
I think I saw the Film Threats review of that, and it did not sound encouraging.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not a big fan of John Cena, so I think I can skip that one.
I like the meme. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's here. Saw
Saw
X and the
X
creator.
and the creator. Yeah. All right. So, couple of some new movies in here. Obviously, the big one, Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem to be hurt much by the fact that you can watch it on Peacock for free. But again, that's because you don't have all that many Peacock subscribers.
Right. Yeah. And as Film Threat pointed out in their review, you got enough people that really enjoyed the video games that they will pay to go see it in the theater. You so you got that. It has that going for it.
Right, and you know that there's going to be a lot of if they have any brains at all, there's going to be big collector's editions and behind the
Yeah.
scenes, and
Yeah, and I think they're already going to do sequels. I think they've already got sequels in the works. So
they'd be fools not to.
yeah, that's true. All right. Well, I think that's all we've got for box office.
Yes.
So, time to put a chick in it and make her
Uh,
gay and lame.
Put a chick in it, make her gay and lame.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, we watched the Panderverse.
Yes, the new South Park hour-long special that's streaming on Paramount Plus.
Yes, and so I guess we'll talk about the plot of it first, and then get into the greater ramifications of it.
Yes. So Daniel, I mean, I'm a longtime South Park watcher, though I kind of stopped around 2016 or so when they had that big. Do you remember that big like multi-part season-long epic about the town getting gentrified and PC principal and all that other stuff?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like it actually kind of had like a Avengers Endgame feel to me because like wow, okay, this kind of feels like the series has culminated, which is probably not what they intended.
Yeah.
Holy Ninja, apparently you've not been on Twitter. We'll talk about Cartman Kennedy in a minute.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, South Park lives rent free in my head on many occasions. Daniel, what's your experience with South Park in general?
In general, I've watched it off and on since it first aired. I actually remember when it came on, well, like '97, I think. Uh, and of course, I lived most of my youth, my childhood in Colorado. So South Park has a special meaning for me and anyone else who grew up in the state of Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, like they put Casa Bonita back on the map. They now Matt and Trey Parker actually own Casa Bonita now.
Yes, they do. Yeah,
Matt
and
Stone, Trey Parker, excuse me.
yeah,
And
and yeah.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, from what I've been hearing, they might be building more Casa Bonitas here pretty soon.
Yeah, I heard something that they were putting like $800 million into expansion for it, which that's
Yeah,
pretty nuts. Like that's
yeah, yeah. But Ninja says, "I haven't. I've been ignoring internet Disney talk." And yeah, get that. And and yes, Chingus, I'm old.
well, you can't be old, and that would mean I'm old.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
That's
that's true.
impossible.
Yes.
So, so there's a few different threads in this episode, and I didn't quite see how they necessarily related. But of course, leave it to Script Doctor over at Midnight's Edge to thread it all together.
Yes.
So, so it's basically a special lampooning laziness in several different forms. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
so I would say that from like a humor perspective, I thought the B plot that we're not seeing in front of us here was actually the funnier of the two. Okay.
Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah, because it was yeah, and yeah, that's what everybody's saying. Like, oh, the B plot is probably better than the A plot. Um, so so the A plot starts off where Cartman has a dream or a vision about him and everyone else in the town getting race and gender swapped. And he asks his mom, can you check into the bed to see if there are any Disney executives?
Honey, Kathleen Kennedy is not going to replace you.
Yeah. uh, yeah, and so then Cartman shows up one day at school and he tells all the other friends about it, and they're like, "Oh, come on, Cartman,
It's ridiculous.
that's ridiculous." And then he gets sucked into the Panderverse and he swaps out with his Panderverse counterpart.
Yes, who is because Cartman is well, basically a grand dragon type is
Yeah.
ironically a black woman.
Yes, right here.
Also, Daniel, can you zoom in on that a little bit? Like maybe hold control and scroll.
Let's see. No, I cannot.
Okay.
I think that's as big as. Well, here. Why don't I do this? We'll just look at Cartman Kennedy.
Okay. So so that's the A plot. Cartman switches places with his Panderverse counterpart.
Yeah.
B plot is about AI and the fact that a lot of people our age don't really know how to do anything.
Yeah,
And that's Randy's story.
Yeah, Randy, yeah. So Randy gets Stan and his sister up, and he's like, because he's the
You kids are I hear that you Gen Z kids don't know how to do anything for yourselves. So oven door's broken. Yeah. Do you know how to fix it? He's just like talking so condescendingly to them.
yeah,
Angry and condescending.
yeah,
Like it isn't his fault as a parent they don't know how to do things.
yeah,
Yeah. First, you take out your phone, and I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a joke about how you can look up a tutorial for anything on YouTube.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Then you call the handyman, and then we go watch TV until the handyman shows up.
yeah,
Yes, Randy does in fact own the weed farm, which
yes,
actually struck me as a slight, how to put it, it's a slight plot hole with this whole thing because in this whole
Mhm.
B plot, he's presenting himself as an information worker who went to school for a geography or for his
uh,
geology degree.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
if
yeah.
you're
Wouldn't it?
farming,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you want some free weed?
eh, well, right? I mean, he has his cash cow even as the episode progresses. But more to the point, how is your farm functioning if you don't know how to do simple maintenance? Are you just real? How reliant are you on that handyman?
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to remember when when he did what season it was where he gets the farm. It was right around when it got legal, when it was legalized in Colorado. When
That would make sense.
yeah,
But anyway, so that doesn't take away from it. So it's basically it's all about AI taking information jobs, and a lot of people our age being stuck with student debt that they're still paying down, and they've learned all these informational jobs like Photoshop and
yeah,
marketing and uh, e-commerce and things that AI can take away. When the assumption was always, oh well, if you get yourself information job, you're gonna be like one of those plebeians whose job is taken away by automation. You're a skilled worker. And then
Right. Yeah.
quietly, the handymen are on the ascension because people didn't bother to learn some basic things, and so now eh, so now they're just making money hand over fist.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The handyman's wearing fur coats and
Yeah,
driving
and,
Hummers and yeah.
yeah. Um, and so now the reason that there is a Cartman as Kathleen Kennedy
Yeah.
is that in the Panderverse, there is in fact a version of Kathleen Kennedy who is just Cartman, who
Yeah.
ended up replacing our Kathleen Kennedy a few weeks back, and that's literally all she says. It's like it's just progression through the episode. Like, they're filming Bambi outside.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's like, put a chick in it, make her gay and lame.
uh, and it's just like this constant progression of like more and more absurd as of a suggestion.
Yeah, and yeah, they show the Disney executives in there like Bob Iger, and they're like, we've pandered to everybody, and we're still losing money, and well,
Oh
then we've
no,
got
my
to
stock.
yeah, my stag. It's Bob Iger's like, then we've got to pander harder.
And so I don't think we necessarily need to go through the entire plot because first off,
Oh, yeah.
it's basically two South Park episodes interwoven together.
Right. Yeah.
Because like either one of these would have been enough for an episode on its own normally, but they do manage to dovetail it all very nicely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It all kind of comes together. Although I do want to say that the part where Cartman's he's in the Panderverse, he's sitting in class and he's just like,
And even the Panderverse version of Cartman, the black woman,
yeah,
she is just basically Cartman, and it's just
yeah,
it's just that she hates white people and talks about the patriarchy.
yeah. And of course they made Kenny an Asian girl.
Yes, and they did kind of break the rules of South Park in that, I guess, like to sell the fact that he's this Panderverse counterpart. They don't have. Yeah, you can actually hear everything that she's saying clearly.
Yeah, she's like, but I like big boobs. She's got big boobs.
Uh, then the other funny thing to me is that, well, that would be a spoiler, Holy Ninja.
Yes, it would.
But although I would ask, on the odds or on the average, how often do they kill Kenny?
Yes.
If I'm just saying, if you were a betting man.
Yes.
Now I found myself laughing and giggling the whole time. They even after years of not watching it, it's still recognizably South Park. The characters are still the characters.
Yeah.
I would say that of all of the '90s sitcoms, like animated sitcoms, this is the one that has kept its voice the longest.
Yeah. Um, and it's kind of been like this, for most of its run. It'll have its good periods and then and have its
Mhm.
bad periods. Like the period you were mentioning, where that whole long arc. I think a lot of people didn't like that very much.
I,
Um,
it's not so much that I minded the arc itself; it's just that it felt too good as a stepping off point. Plus, I kind of accurately predicted that they're going to keep running with the Mr. Garrison as Trump thing, and
right. Yeah.
that just seemed like it was going to be. It wasn't very funny to start with,
Hmm.
just because they didn't. The thing is, and this is kind of where I will talk about the strengths and the weaknesses of the episode, um,
Hmm.
from a comedy angle. Their strength is the ability to do what I call, or what Scott Adams refers to as the linguistic kill shot.
Yeah.
All these years later, when I think of Russell Crowe, I still think making movies, making songs, and we will fight around the world. You think of Barbara Streisand, Mecha Barbara Streisand.
Just said, yeah. Yeah.
Barbara, Barbara.
what I liked was like why I'm a very famous and important person. Do you know John Elway? No. Oh, so you're really famous and important, but you don't know John Elway?
Let's see here. What else? You know,
Do you like
uh,
fish sticks?
yes, Kanye West is still a gay fish to this day.
Yes.
It's like they're very good at pinning something on somebody. And so now
Yeah.
that's going to be attached to Kathleen Kennedy going forward. Is put a chick in it, make her gay and lame.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and from what some of the rumors that have been floating around, oh, man, bear, pig.
Yep, can't forget Man Bear Pig.
I'm super duper cereal.
Super cereal.
um, but yeah, apparently from what the rumors that have been floating around is that Disney's not happy with this, even though to go into, I guess, start with some of the negative, or we well, the
Let's hear.
positives.
Yeah, it's funny. It still feels like the show.
Yeah,
Um,
there's some good gags in there. Yeah.
you know, so there's the thing I immediately noticed was that one of the things about the modern panderversing is how to put this. All of the female versions of all these different characters were actually very conventionally attractive, if not kind of knockouts.
Yeah, yeah. Let me. My apologies for finding such a tiny image, but yeah,
Like, I mean, I noticed on Twitter that Asian female Kenny there was immediately getting people's attention.
yeah. You got Hispanic Stan.
Yep, and Native American Kyle,
Yeah,
or possibly in, well, some,
probably Indian. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's Native American or Indian, but either way,
yeah,
but yeah, like they're all like you'd think that at least the Cartman version would be, you know, tubby because she still eats like Cartman.
yeah. And they do call her fat.
Yeah, that's like a 2000s supermodel definition of fat.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and the yeah, and of course, and then when she gets swapped out into the our universe, or the main universe, the other kids are like, "What? This? She's not Cartman."
What, Cartman can't be a black woman?
Yeah, yeah. PC principal sounds like the problem's you.
um, uh, so yeah, it's like that's one thing I noticed, which that could just be a design decision. Like, if you're an artist, what would you rather draw? Um,
Yeah,
Also, it could be argued that if they'd I, actually that tends to be more like secondary characters who get to be body positive. So maybe that is fitting.
yeah.
Actually, yeah, actually no. Now I think about it, if she kind of looked like Precious, then to make an old reference,
Uh,
um, that she would actually resemble Cartman more. So that would this might actually be the better design choice. Either way,
yeah,
it's kind of it's a question.
right. Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it's a potential weakness, but
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's overall, it was a funny episode. I was laughing quite a lot.
you know,
The um, the negatives of it, and I think some people have kind of pointed this out, is um, they did seem to be to go a little easy on Kathleen Kennedy at the end. And
right,
they went really easy on Bob Iger, I thought.
right, because Bob Iger is kind of presented as a victim of Kathleen Kennedy going to the Panderstone too many times.
Yeah,
Because that's how the Panderstone basically lets you make the same movie over and over again with a few cosmetic nods towards diversity, and
yeah,
she just overused it.
yeah, yeah. Um, and then of course he had the whole thing with where Cartman and Kathleen Kennedy are at the coffee shop, and or they're at Shitty Walk. Oh God,
Which the sign on the back said "shitty woke," which is kind of funny.
yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, I won't use that voice ever again. Um,
Probably best for your future career prospects.
yeah. Um, but yeah, they were kind of, we're, she said she was getting like 10,000 letters a day, calling her the C word, and Carmen's like, well, it's actually 12 or 13,000 I was sending.
Yeah, it was all right. And it's like they were both part of a vicious cycle of she made worse things, and so he sent her more letters, which made her more angry. So she made more changes to piss him off. So he sent more letters.
Right.
Eh,
Yeah.
Now I will say that they're okay. So Cartman is never right, is the thing.
Right. Yeah.
Like he is intentionally the worst character in the series.
Yeah. Yeah. And despite that, he's still the most popular.
Well, it's because I mean that's the common thing. Like in Family Guy back in the day, who was the most popular? Stewie, because back then he was a mad scientist who just said whatever he felt like.
Right. Yeah.
Bart was initially the most popular in The Simpsons back when he was a little hellion.
Yeah.
Um, Dogbert was always I always perceived Dogbert as being the most popular character in Dilbert because he was basically Scott Adams being an awful sociopath in ways that he was afraid he could never get away with in real life,
Yeah.
according to books I read of his,
Uh,
and on down the line.
yeah.
So it's like if Cartman is making rapprochement with Kathleen Kennedy, is he like Cartman never learns his lesson really? If he
That's true.
seems to be learning his lesson, doesn't that kind of undercut the lesson?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, every single time he ever gets in trouble or something, he does something. Yeah, he never he never learns his lesson. It's just, he goes back to being Cartman.
Yep. So that's one thing that's kind of interesting. Um, the, the other thing is that there's been suspicions that this might be too inside baseball. Like a lot of people don't know who Kathleen Kennedy is in the
Yeah.
general public, so this just might confuse them.
Well, if they didn't know who she was before, they definitely know who she is
Eh,
now.
And that's especially where their ability to stick somebody with a label is important because like when I saw that Russell Crowe fighting around the world thing, I'd never really seen any of his movies because just wasn't something I'd done. But I've seen a few of his movies now. He's quite the actor. But in the back of my mind, when I first hear his name, making
Yeah.
movies, making songs, and we will fight around the world. All right, Tagger, where's the cancer? Well, I
Oh,
can't fight cancer, but I can fight this child with cancer. Put up your dukes.
oh man.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
if that's somebody's first impression of Kathleen Kennedy, that is not a positive first impression
No, no, no.
because the kind of nice or the kind of reasonable woman who got stuck in the Panderverse and was replaced by alternate Cartman is not going to be the version that sticks in people's minds after this episode.
No, no. This is the one that's gonna that this is the version that's gonna stick in everybody's mind.
Yep. But also, it's like they always. I think I remember commenting this to you over Discord as I was watching it. Like, if you agree with Cartman in the first act of a South Park episode, expect to get you're probably not going to be seen in a good light in the last act.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ninja says South Park makes me nervous around pangolians. I
Uh,
never knew they existed till the COVID
yeah.
special.
It's like an Asian anteater.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool. They're like about the only bipedal mammal besides us,
Mm.
but they're bipedal dinosaur style where they have they're like have the long tail
Ah. Okay.
because they climb in trees and they use their little claws to dig for ants and termites.
Ah. Hmm.
The more you know.
Yes. Dun, 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 dun.
Um, Now that, yeah, so like I mean, it is lazy to just call everything woke, which
Yeah.
is which was their other point. Like, hey, yeah, they keep, again, like I said before, the problem is not put a chick in it and make her gay. It's the lame part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's yeah, like and specifically like this part here. I mean, the whole this whole thing they're specifically referencing the character in Willow, the TV show Willow. That of course it is you can't watch it anymore because it got pulled. It
Yep.
was so bad.
It might show up on Tubi, but well,
Yeah,
hasn't yet.
but yeah,
Yeah. And the other thing is that, uh, they say that it's funny because it's true.
yeah.
Like, I was serious. Like, there have been some Marvel things that have come out. Like, seriously, there was a version of the script before they went back to square one of the Blade remake, where he was one of an ensemble cast with three female characters who were more prominent in the script than Blade was in a movie about Blade. It's like,
Uh,
this is funny because there's there, it smacks of the truth.
yeah.
Like name me a mainstream sci-fi franchise that that a few years back had a male had a male lead. Like, Star Wars had Ray, Star Trek had Mike
What
Mikey Mikey.
Michael Burnham.
That's right. Um, and so, just like, it's just sort of a weird thing that's been going on for a while. So, like, I would say, from like a factual perspective, is it, or for, have they correctly diagnosed the entire problem? Not entirely, but you also wonder. I've heard suspicions that this is not the first round of this, or not the last round of this.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah, that this there could be a second one coming pretty soon, which I hope so.
Right? Bob Iger doesn't deserve to get off light.
No, but yeah, yeah, it's on. Obviously, it's on Paramount Plus if anyone's interested.
Yeah, like I said, like, most of my big laughs came out of the Randy Marsh secondary plot about the AI and the
Yeah,
college being worthless and people not knowing how to do anything.
yeah,
It,
they go back to the University of Colorado, and then they they get the catapult.
they order a catapult, it comes not pre-assembled, and so they
Yes,
hire the handyman to to make the catapult for them,
yeah, and
to
then they
punish the school because they're helpless.
yeah, and then they send the stone through the window at the school. So then the school just hires a handyman to fix the window.
Hey, Edwin,
Oh, hey, no one, good to see you.
welcome,
But
welcome.
yeah, but yeah, it's good for some laughs if you're so interested in watching it. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, and even if you haven't been watching South Park for a bit, the only thing that raised an eyebrow for me was the weed farms, and that was
yeah,
easy enough to just go, "Oh, okay, Mr. Marsh has a new job.
yeah,
Moving on."
yes. But yeah, I think we can safely move on to our next review.
Yes, our last and
Well,
least review of the day. Oh, wait, actually, no, you have something good to talk about.
yes, I have something good to talk about. So, I went back and rewatched one of my favorite movies of all time, and I went from a really tiny image to a huge one.
Oof.
But yeah, I watched.
It's not as easy as I make it look.
No, it isn't. So I watched Star Trek: First Contact, um, and this movie kind of has a special place for me because this was, I believe, this was no, it was this was the first Star Trek movie I went and saw opening day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, all the way back in 1996. Which, yes, yes, I'm dating myself again, Cengiz.
Only another year compared to the launch of South Park.
Yes, but so I'll just kind of go briefly over the plot of the movie, and then just kind of talk about my thoughts on it. So the movie takes place. It's after the events of Generations, when they're on board the Enterprise E, and they get word that the Borg are about to attack Earth. And so then the Enterprise, they get sent away because Starfleet doesn't want Picard anywhere near the Borg. Because if you watch the TV show, he was assimilated by the Borg, and then the crew rescued him and brought him back. That was the best of both worlds, parts 1 and 2. Which this movie's kind of a sequel to that episode in a way. Um,
Right.
and but then Picard says, "Well, we're going to go anyway," and they take out the Borg ship, but uh, another Borg sphere emerges, and I'm not sure if
Uh, what was
the
it, a sphere or a cube?
sphere. Yeah, well, the first ship was a cube, and then it was a
Oh,
sphere.
that's right. The cubes were the regular versions, and then they launched a
Right,
sphere out of it. Okay,
right,
that's right.
yeah. Which was the first time they'd ever seen a Borg ship other than the cube. Um, but and part of me wonders if them fighting the cube wasn't just like a diversion, because the sphere travels back in time.
Oh yeah, I think that, yeah, I think it was yeah, actually, yeah, was that part of their plan, was to get the cube blown up so that, like, what would have happened if they just managed to march on Earth? Well, now we have to extricate this super durable sphere from inside of our cube. But
Right.
sir, but okay, of course, the Borg don't have conversations because they're a hive mind. But if they did, my well, get firing. But my queen, if we fire too many times, we'll be immune to our own weapons, and we'll have to change the modularity some more.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so then the sphere goes back in time, and then the Enterprise sees that Earth has been completely assimilated, and they go back and they find out that the Borg have traveled to the year 2063, uh, the day before Zephram Cochrane, the human scientist, built humanity's first warp ship, and does the maiden voyage, and then the maiden voyage gets spotted by an alien race. Spoilers: it's the Vulcans, and they make and which thus the title of the movie, First Contact.
They said the thing.
Yes. And Zephram Cochrane, who's played by James Cromwell, also says the thing. He says Star Trek. Only time it's ever been used. um, but yeah, so they have to prevent the Borg from stopping First Contact. They destroy the sphere, but then a bunch of Borg beam on board the Enterprise and then start assimilating it. They're basically three different plot lines going on. You've got stuff going on the Enterprise, which is Picard, Worf, and the other Crusher and some of the other Enterprise crew trying to stop the Borg on the Enterprise. Data gets captured by the Borg, um,
Right.
and
This continues the plot line from the previous movie where he had the emotion chip implanted as
right.
part of his ongoing quest to become more human.
Yes, and this is the introduction of the Borg Queen, which was it's kind of a controversial choice. There's some people, some fans of the franchise, that don't like the idea of the Borg having a leader, quote unquote, since they're a hive mind. But I kind of like it because it implies that they're like bees. You know, bees have a bees all have a queen. So um,
It also makes it so that you can actually have a conversation with somebody who represents the hive mind.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, the board queen was played by Alice Krieg, and her design was very much inspired by H.R. Giger, who uh,
Mm,
who designed. For those of you who don't know, he was an artist. He designed the xenomorph and Alien. Uh, weirdly sexual, I think, is a good way to describe his artwork.
yes.
um, but and then the C, I guess, well, A minus plot and then B plot, and the B plot is down on Earth with Riker, Geordi, and Troy getting Zephram Cochrane ready for the warp flight. And that part of it actually really, what I liked about that part was you got to know like Zephram Cochrane, and you realize, everybody, all the members of the crew just hero worship the guy. They think
Hmm.
he's just the, because he ushered in this new era of humanity, building this warp ship. And because I mean it's this is basically the origin story of Star Trek. I mean, it's how,
Hmm.
you know humanity got into Star Trek, how it all started. And but then you find out Zephram Cochrane is just a he's a drunk and a womanizer, and just he was in it for the money. He's not wasn't really in it for, you know to help humanity or anything like that,
Hmm.
uh because the events in this movie are occurring 10 years after World War III. And
Right.
and of course, and if you think about it, which was a nuclear war and a lot of people died, and so it's just humanity
Yeah.
was in a really bad place.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah. But and then of course I got to mention one other character. Lily was played by Alfred Woodard. She's like Zephram Cochrane's like partner, and she ends up on the Enterprise when the Borg attacked the site where the ship was. And then they kind of have this weird like s- there isn't a romance between Picard and Lily, but they were kind of like maybe trying to do that.
Yeah. If the pseudo love interest would be how I might put it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a basic plot of it all. And then, and of course you have I think the real crux of the movie is Picard uh still dealing with a lot of post-traumatic stress from his time with the Borg. Um, and it comes out in the scene with him and Lily where he breaks the display case with the ships, and then he does the line must be drawn here.
This far, no farther.
Yeah, yes, and which to me is just like the ultimate Picard moment. Like I know a lot of people didn't like it because it seemed out of character for him, because before, whenever he would get angry, it was always measured and
Right.
there was a reason for it. But this was just like completely irate and like out of control, which was a side of Picard I actually kind of like to see, because it's like, oh wow, okay, he is human.
Right. And it's one of those things where um, if you okay, so in my daily life, I actually don't curse very often.
Mm,
Partially this is because I'm not comfortable with it because I didn't really grow up doing it. Partially it's because if you start doing it, you can't turn it off when you do have to really keep a clean mouth. But
yeah,
the secret benefit is that when I actually do curse, people pay attention.
yeah,
So by the same token, if Picard is always measured and under control, you as the viewer know that if Picard is lashing out and angry and irrational about dealing with these Borg and not losing his ship to them, that it's
yeah,
really affected him deeply.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
you can't pull that trick next episode when, uh, you know, those dumbass aliens show up.
yeah.
We can't make our ship go like this far, no far. Like if he has that reaction to the slow bus aliens, then
Yeah. Then you got a problem. Yeah.
as long as you measure it out, that kind of moment is perfectly fine.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And slight spoiler for season 3 of Picard. So there are scenes in the a few scenes in the movie where Picard hears the voices of the Borg in his head, and it's never explained in the movie how he's able to do that. It's explained in season 3 of Picard. Um, it's a little. Let's just say the Borg left a little gift in his brain.
Oof.
After he was assimilated. Yeah. Um, uh, but um, but yeah, this was this movie was a huge step up after the colossal, not colossal, but the underwhelming underwhelmingness. I don't know if that's a word or not, but just how underwhelming Generations was.
Yeah, and I'll say that I've never heard anybody make a serious case that there was a next generation movie that was better than this one.
No, no. This is easily the best Next Generation movie, and it's hard to find a close second amongst the other three.
Eh, Not Nemesis.
Well, I thought Nemesis was better than a lot of people give it credit for, but it was certainly not that good. Certainly better than, and definitely not Insurrection, which was the follow up to this movie.
Maybe that's the worst one, just because you had to deal with Worf having gynecomastia.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. And Ninja says, same with him and doing crude humor. When you really do those types of jokes, it's funnier. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I will say, I thought I hadn't watched this for in a long time, but then I remembered that with a group of friends, we had actually been watching some of the Star Trek movies together, the
Yeah.
original crew.
Yeah.
And one of our group only really knew the series from the original series and the J.J. Abrams movies.
Ah.
So we decided to show him this one.
Ah.
And I'll say that apparently this is not a good jumping on point if you don't know the next generation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
It's like he really didn't know who anybody was or why he should care. Or
Yeah. Yeah. I would definitely say watch a few episodes of the Next Generation, and especially the Best of Both Worlds.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, if you wanted to kind of know what's going on in this movie, but yeah, I mean this not
That's really my
only
only criticism I can make of it.
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean I can't recommend this movie enough. It's again like our first review. This one's on Paramount Plus as well. Um, if you want to give it a watch, yeah, I like I said, not only is it one of my favorites in the franchise, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Um,
Yeah. Well, you, well, Daniel, you managed to hold off the horror.
yes, well, this is our quote unquote classic review because I
Classic.
don't.
Note to us later when you mark it as a classic review, but put classic in parentheses with a question mark next to it.
Yes, yeah. So our final review, 2003 is the Hulk.
Ang Lee's Hulk.
Yeah. Which why is my internet going so low? That's weird.
It can't handle all of those pixels on that 2003 CGI.
I guess not. Yeah. Um but yeah, so we watched Ang Lee's Hulk, which I had never seen this movie before. DB, you had seen it before.
Yeah, I had seen it on home video close to when it came out originally. And so I actually liked it at the time. Uh, but that's back when I didn't really understand taste, and I was probably just impressed that it was a Hulk movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
um,
on IMDb, this thing is sitting at a 5.6 out of 10, which I think is about fair, actually.
yeah, that's about where I would put it. Yeah. Um,
So to kind of man, I think I mentioned last week that I had signed up for my own Netflix account with the ad tier because that's about how much I thought I'd be using it. Um, Man, when the commercials are like a brief oasis in the sea of horror that you're
Yeah.
wading through.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and Ninja asks, brings in the question whether the CGI was, or the CGI looks better than She-Hulk. Uh,
Huh. Okay, so I didn't actually subject myself to much of She-Hulk. From out of context clips, I do have to give it to She-Hulk.
yeah, I'd say She-Hulk was probably slightly better. And Chengus is sorry, he's sorry we watched this.
You know
Uh,
what? It's good to confirm your memories occasionally, and this time I completely debunked my memories of this movie being better than people thought it was.
yeah, well, and of course, I had nothing compared to because I mean I remember when I watched this movie when this movie first came out. I remember seeing the trailers for it, and I thought, oh, that looks really. I thought it looked cartoonish, and
Mhm.
it didn't interest me whatsoever.
Yeah, you know, we'll talk about other Hulk movies that might or might not exist
Yeah,
later on. But for this one, so this is a very classic take. Actually, no, it is not a very classic take on the Hulk. I would say that this actually mashes kind of the classic origin with some of the work that Peter David and other writers did in the 80s and 90s surrounding uh, the origins of the trauma that created the Hulk. Because for the longest time, there was always this idea that oh, everybody has a beast inside of them,
yeah,
but then you'd have people like Abomination who would turn into a Hulk-like beast, but just be entirely rational.
yeah,
Or Jennifer Walters as She-Hulk, where her inner person was just herself, but more vivacious and bombastic, and able to break the fourth wall.
yeah,
But like why did Bruce turn into a giant rage beast? Well, because of a childhood full of awful child abuse, I believe, at the hands of his father, from what I recall.
yeah,
So this movie really pulls from that.
yeah. And they give his father the David Banner, the name David Banner, which the TV show that was his name.
Yeah, because some TV executive thought that the name Bruce was sounded gay for some reason. Which, has the dude been to Australia?
Yeah, yeah. Jeez.
It was the opposite of our South Park review. Give him a different name, make him straight.
Yeah.
But they also added and lame
And
because
lame,
this movie is
yes.
pretty lame.
Yeah, this movie is very lame.
Like
So
like Changus will know that partway through it, I started watching his stream and live streaming my comments while he was playing his game.
uh, uh, yeah. So
Like
I guess we should get into
there's a basic test I give movies.
yeah.
Can I keep my phone and laptop away from myself while I subject myself to it?
Yeah.
This movie failed so quickly because I really gave it a chance, but man,
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, so I guess we should go over the plot of the movie.
I guess we should.
Uh, yeah, so it starts off with Bruce Banner's father, David, who's a scientist working for the military, doing illegal, unethical experiments on himself, which the consequences of that passed on to his son, to Bruce, and then he causes a gamma explosion at the base where they are, the desert base, which I don't even know where the desert base is. I'm guessing Nevada.
Yeah, I mean that's basically where the original comics had the Hulk accident take place. Was at like a above air nuclear test ground somewhere.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and so then we flash forward to what 30 years later. and Bruce, or he gets adopted by another family. He changes his last name, and he's working at his own laboratory in Berkeley with his ex-girlfriend Betty Ross, played by Jennifer Connelly. Um,
Yeah, with Hulk himself played by Eric Bana, who, well, he recently played Monterey Jack in the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers Disney Plus movie.
I didn't know that.
I am seeing like one movie in his IMDb history going back to 2013 that has better than a 8 rating.
Oof.
Oh,
Well, he
and
was.
he
Yeah.
got an 8 for The Orchard, which is a podcast series, so not even a movie.
Oh god. Well, I know him best as Nero, the bad guy from the J.J. Abrams Star Trek.
Oh God, yeah. I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah.
Huh.
And he's been in he was, and I will say he was in two really good war movies, Lone Survivor and Black Hawk Down.
Oh, okay. So I haven't seen either of those. Um,
Uh,
but yeah, I mean, looking at him these days, he's grown a beard, which I think really helps because especially in this movie, he had kind of a baby face going
yeah,
on.
he did. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so so Bruce and Betty are working on a nano machine thing to help to heal injuries, and they're applying gamma radiation to it. And of course, the experiments don't go well. And it's good. So, long story short, there's a malfunction with the equipment. Bruce goes in there to help a colleague, and then he gets exposed to the gamma radiation and the
Yeah.
nano machines.
And a detail I liked was that he jumped in the way of it because,
Yeah.
like, showing to be heroic. Although knowing how like real life incidents that have occurred around particle accelerators happened, there was this one Russian guy who got some beams right through the head. That kind of messed
Mm,
his brain up. Um, they just go right through you, so he
yeah.
would not actually block much from his fellow colleague.
You're right. Yeah. But
But it's a thought that counts. But
yeah,
yeah,
makes it. Yeah.
he gets a lethal dose of gamma radiation, and everyone's like, "You should be dead."
Yeah, and and also someone who just took a job there as a janitor is Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte, who who's playing David Banner.
Yep, and he shows up, and it's very clear that he's interested in whatever happened to Bruce. And
Right.
he wants to replicate that for himself.
Yes, and of course, also entering into the picture is Betty's father, of course, General Thunderbolt Ross, uh, played by Sam Elliott.
Which I can't tell if that's good casting or not, because like he plays the role as well as he can given what he's given. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like he's almost too charming, even when he's trying to be a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, which he does very well in We Were Soldiers, if you've ever seen that movie.
I actually
Uh,
haven't. Might have to
uh,
add that to the list.
yeah, definitely add that to the list. Yeah. He doesn't have a mustache in that movie, so it was a little weird seeing him. Like, oh
Uh,
well.
uh, Sidebar. I wonder if that was around when he filmed the season of Justified that he was in, because he didn't have a mustache in that one either.
Oh,
Uh,
maybe.
and that was a joke when my friends and I were watching that. Like, because he was a criminal in that one. It's like,
Yeah.
I might have believed you if it had something to like make your face look more trustworthy, like a mustache or something. But
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, General Ross is interested in Banner because when he hulks out in the lab and completely destroys it. And you've also got Betty's other ex-boyfriend, who's a ex-army guy and now working for a DoD contractor. Uh,
Josh Lucas, who the only other thing I've ever seen him in is he was the romantic lead in Sweet Home Alabama.
yeah, I remember that movie. Yeah.
It's kind of the follow up to Legally Blonde that everybody forgets existed.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so they all want a piece of Bruce Banner, with his, hulking
Right.
out. And
Right. Like for Ross for the military, Talbot, for the ex-boyfriend for capitalism and profit, and Nick Nolte just wants to watch the world burn.
yeah, yes, exactly. And Nick Nolte turns into absorbing
Yep, the
man.
absorbing man.
Absorbing man. Yeah,
And, and there's some. I thought the special effects were like where he was like kind of merging with his surroundings were like there you could see like a little bit of the datedness on it, but I thought that was like a cool concept that they were pulling off there.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah. So then, when Talbot's trying to get what he wants from Hulk, and then Hulk escapes, and then they have this whole,
And
probably one of the most boring chase scenes I think I've ever seen.
an interminable fight slash chase scene between the Hulk and the army that goes
Yeah,
on like 10 minutes too long.
yeah, and yeah, with interludes of him looking at his reflection in the water, and then staring off at plants.
Yeah, and so this is where the special effects like this is where when I was asked the question, yeah, are the special effects in this better than She-Hulk? I This was where I said no because he looks ridiculous when he runs, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, and it just, yeah, it will. And the whole thing with the helicopters and everything just didn't look didn't
No,
look good at all.
no. But yeah, so he gets captured, um, and they bring in his dad for some reason, like to talk with
Yeah.
him. And I didn't. By that point, I was a little bit checked out, so I kind of missed why he. Like, was it just because he was the content expert? Excuse me.
Yeah, I think I think that might be why. Because Betty shows up at his house.
Oh, that's right, because Betty wouldn't know that he was dag nasty evil.
Right. Yeah. And I guess she didn't realize that he sent murderous dogs after her.
Yeah, we'll talk about the dogs in a minute because they're
Yeah.
part of the weird tone of this movie.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
so then you have to follow up the most boring chase slash fight scene ever. You have the most. Uh, it manages to outdo Wonder Woman for disappointing last fights with the villain. Now, I would
yeah.
say that Captain America, the first Avenger, still has the most disappointment for the Red Skull just getting yoinked into the outer space
Yeah. Yeah. And
and never really getting a good fight with Steve.
yeah. Yeah. That was bad. Yeah. But
Yeah,
that whole ending sequence with the yeah, he's talking to his dad, and then he hulks out, and dad absorbs out, and yeah, then this.
and the military uses missiles and blows them up, and so the
Yeah,
Hulk doesn't technically beat his villain in this movie.
yeah, I yeah, it's
Right. Well, it was very much like that '98 Godzilla American movie. Like, was there a law at the time that if there was a serious threat, that the military had to beat it? I almost wonder if that was because when you think about the first Transformers movie,
yeah,
like think about how the military was actually able to affect the Predacons, right, when they were fighting them.
right, yeah,
I
yeah.
I wonder if that's like part of like if you ask for the military's help, like, hey, can we get some footage of inside of a military base and maybe get some guys in uniform as extras and see some borrow some helicopters. Like, okay, but we got to look good and we got to contribute to the bad guys' defeat.
I think that was absolutely it. Yeah, 100%. And keep in mind, this was 2003, so this was post
Right.
9/11, and Iraq War was starting right around this time too.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that is very much the case when it comes to the, yeah, U.S. military.
And then here's something I hadn't really realized until rewatching this. So yeah, at the end, he is in the jungle somewhere in South America,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then the next movie, like the Incredible Hulk, that's actually technically part of the MCU, he's in Brazil, and it's
Yeah.
like, no, even outside of people assuming, oh, you made two Hulk movies in 5 years of each other, of course they're connected somehow.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
that almost makes it seem like a sequel to this movie.
Yeah. And I'm sure. And I'll be honest. When that movie came out, I thought it was a sequel to this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I feel like the badness of this movie is why we only got one MCU independent Hulk movie.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, because and we were talking about it over Discord when we were watching it. Like and you pointed this out that this was made in a time when making a comic book movie, like, there's still kind of a stigma involved with it.
Yeah, like this was post Batman and Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like it's weird. It's like I said, like the whole thing with the bringing up the Absorbing Man as the villain of the movie. That's some inside baseball. That's not a villain that a lot of people would assume.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They would you would think they would go with Abomination like they did in the Incredible Hulk.
Right. Or if you wanted to like do something different, have the leader.
Yeah.
Um, or even like no, they wouldn't have had the rights to the Rhino because those were tied up with Spider-Man. So that was
Yeah.
over at Sony. So
Yeah. Um, but yeah, this was, and you were saying that this was kind of like they were trying to make it serious, and they were trying to have it be like really existential.
yeah, because
And
there's a movie here about like and I almost wonder if that's part of why the army was the ones who ultimately beat the Absorbing Man with no real effort from the Hulk.
yeah,
Because I feel like this movie is about how like abuse victims, it's like they never really overcome it, or they. 'Cause that is the message. It's not like Bruce stood up to him, but it didn't end up meaning anything.
right, yeah, yeah, and well, and like I was saying, like when like the scenes when he's looking at his reflection in the water and staring off at plants and everything. It's like,
Yeah,
what like. And I don't know if that was like Ang Lee trying to artsy it up, because like, for those of you who probably don't know this, or really, if you haven't looked at his like filmography, he does dramas. He mainly
hmm
does. This is like, I mean, even Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like this movie was, I think, one of his few action movies, because like even Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I mean, that was a fairy tale.
hmm
That wasn't really yes, there was martial arts stuff in there and sword fighting, but it was a romance drama. So I don't know if the adding that existential stuff in there with this movie, if it wasn't him trying to artsy it up a bit.
yeah. Like trying to elevate it, but then there's like a lot of the other thing is that there's a level where it does kind of feel like it's existential is a good word for it. There's also just like some general unpleasantness, I'd call it. Like if
Yeah.
the audience is squeamish, they're going to be unhappy. Like the opening scene is the dad doing experiments, like cutting pieces off of starfish and extracting organs and putting them in
Yeah.
those accelerator things,
Centrifuge. Yeah.
centrifuge. Thank you. And putting it in a centrifuge and drawing blood, and it's just like a lot of mad science imagery as they're setting up the movie,
Yeah.
or actually just non-mad scientist imagery, honestly.
Yeah.
You have like unpleasant things like young Bruce when he gets hurt, he like his veins go green, which like how does his mom not notice that when she's looking right at him?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, or she noticed it and just maybe just didn't want to say anything about it. Like,
You know, and and the mom ends up getting stabbed by the dad with a steak knife when he's trying to take Bruce. Was he trying? He was trying to kill Bruce to cover his tracks, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Nick
And then
Nolte's character is a piece of shit.
yeah. Yeah, and yeah, she tries to stop him, and then she falls on, and the knife falls on her, goes in her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And she stumbles out slowly into the desert as the explosion is about to happen.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and also the Hulk kills 3 dogs. Now they're
yeah,
Hulk dogs who are trying to kill him, but
yeah,
it's like
and yeah,
most members of the audience like dogs.
yeah, and especially when especially one of them's a poodle.
Yeah, like that is not an intimidating dog.
Yeah, it's just yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't pay money to see this movie when it came out.
Yeah. But then the other thing is this movie's editing is goofy as all get out.
Yeah, yeah, with the comic panels in every
Yeah.
scene. Yeah,
Like they're always showing like 4 things going on or multiple characters. Where it really just jumped the shark was Talbot at one point gets an explosion going off behind him, and he's like frozen in midair like a comic panel, and he's his like they draw like a badly traced outline of him to emphasize the action, I suppose.
yeah, that was God. That was so stupid.
And I looked up the budget and for this thing, but I forget
Mhm.
it. The Hulk, the numbers. This thing was an expensive movie, and this thing did not get close to making its money back.
Oh,
Let's see here. Da-da-da-da-da.
let's see. Yeah, let me look it up too. Hulk.
Hulk.
Uh, yeah, let's see. Uh, yeah, made it did 245 million overall, and on a budget of 137 million. So yeah, it didn't.
Yeah, like if we're adjusted for inflation, this is the type of money that we lambaste Marvel for putting into these properties.
Right. Yeah. And Ninja says Hulk 2003 reminds me that only Spider-Man and maybe Blade were the good Marvel movies in the early 2000s. Though I have a soft spot for the Fantastic Four. I would,
X-Men is also good.
yeah, X-Men. Yeah, at least the first two X-Men were good. Um, but actually, if you want to keep that trend, keep the trend of watching somewhat good or not so good Marvel movies, you want to watch Fantastic Four next. I don't know where it is.
I probably Hulu, I'd guess it's a Disney thing now or a Fox
Or-
thing.
Yeah, or it might
But,
be, or yeah, it might be on Disney Plus. I don't know. Ninja says the X Men movies don't hold up. Well,
I guess we'll
I haven't watched them in a while, so yeah.
yeah, we can judge that for ourselves. But
Yeah.
anyway, to put this one to bed,
Yes.
again, the ad breaks on Netflix helped make this more bearable.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately just an unpleasant, dim movie that is both too serious but does goofy things like Hulk Poodle and comic book editing. I am never watching Fan Four Stick. I'm sorry. You cannot make me. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, no,
Yes.
no.
No.
I've seen bits of it. No.
No. Yeah. I don't think I want
I'm
to
not
watch that
watching the
either.
whole thing. Can't make me. Nuh-uh.
Yeah. We were referring to the Jessica Alba Fantastic Four movie.
Yes.
Yeah. But uh, but yeah, I will say the one bright spot in the movie, uh, Jennifer Connelly looked really good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it I will also say this movie makes the MCU Incredible Hulk movie look. A lot of people kind of call it mid or like one of the worst ones. At least
Yeah.
that one had the cool fight scene in the middle with Emil Blonsky before he went full Abomination.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That was good. Yeah.
I'll also say this was an early example of Stan Lee doing a cameo where he and Lou Ferrigno are security guards very early on,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
that, that, that- which that was that was cute. Good
Yeah,
on them.
yeah, yeah. I like that. Yeah, and like the Stanley's line with that was good. Where he's like, "They need more security on a place like this."
Yeah, and considering that the absorbing man managed to infiltrate them right under everyone's noses, and actually, I want to give special. I want to actually give a little bit of praise or something before we call it a night.
Yeah.
Nick Nolte is perfect casting for an evil hippie mad scientist, like
Yeah.
evil hippie burnout mad scientist. Like the character is kind of nothing, but you feel the performance because
Yeah.
you never really find out why he's angry at the world, but like he just wants to pursue his medical knowledge for the sake of it, and he's just like, yeah, he just wants to tear everything down.
Right. Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah. I will say, yeah, he gave a really good performance in that. Yeah. Yeah. In this. But yeah. Other than that, like, yeah, this movie was. I
Yeah,
could see why it didn't do very well and why it didn't get a sequel or anything. Yeah.
yeah. Why people kind of turn their noses up at it.
Yeah. Well. Well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just goes to show that when you're making a comic book movie, early MCU style, where you're more or less a straightforward comic book movie, is the way to go.
Yeah. And yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah. Well. I think that's a good place to leave it off.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications.
Uh,
Um,
if you think we're geniuses, leave a comment. If you think we're stupid, leave a comment.
yes, and if you're not following me on Twitter already, my Twitter handle is right underneath my name here. We also upload the stream on there as well. So, but yeah, until or wait,
Good
we'll see you all next week.
night, everyone.
Night, everyone.